When I was a child, I used to lie in the grass at night, staring up at the stars, imagining what it would be like to live somewhere beyond our blue skies. The dark sky was a vast canvas sprinkled with tiny, twinkling lights, each carrying a whisper of worlds unknown. My mind would wander. What if we could visit those distant places? What would life be like on Mars, the red planet that seemed so out of reach yet so incredibly enticing? Mars, with its rusty hue and mysterious allure, has captured the human imagination for centuries. As we dive into the topic of future human settlements on Mars, let's paint a picture of what life might be like there and explore the steps humans might take to transform this celestial neighbor into the next frontier. Imagine waking up on Mars. The sun is rising, but it's not the bright, welcoming light we're used to on Earth. Instead, it's a duller glow filtering through the thin atmosphere, casting long shadows on the dusty red terrain. You stretch and put on your special suit, because here, every breath of air counts. The air is thin, mostly carbon dioxide, and it won't support human life without help. This suit becomes part of you, your shield and sustenance, allowing you to step outside your habitat. As you walk out, the ground feels gritty beneath your boots. The soil is different. It's not soil at all, but regolith, a rocky layer that covers Mars' surface. It's iron-rich, which gives Mars its signature red color. This regolith could be our ally, though. Scientists think we might be able to use it to build habitats, paving the way for construction without having to bring materials from Earth. The air is cold and crisp, with temperatures dropping to well below freezing. It's a landscape of extremes, and the only sound you hear is the faint crunch of your own footsteps. The silence is profound, almost tangible, and it gets you thinking about the solitude and the sheer vastness of space, how it makes you ponder your place in the universe, your identity as a person, a human. In your habitat, life is a bit different, too. The space is compact, filled with humming equipment recycling the air and water. There's a faint, sterile smell, a reminder of the technology keeping you alive. Meals are carefully planned, often a mix of freeze-dried and freshly grown food, thanks to hydroponic gardens that thrive under artificial lights. These plants not only give you sustenance, but also a comforting hint of green and a whisper of earth life in an alien world. The smell of fresh herbs can transport you back to a summer garden or a home-cooked meal, grounding you in the familiar, even when you're so far away. Living on Mars requires embracing a pioneer spirit. It's about being part of something much bigger, a bold step for humanity, a second home beyond Earth. Every day, you contribute to experiments and tests to understand how Mars can support human life. The challenges are many, from radiation exposure, which requires shielding and strategic planning, to the psychological impact of being so far from home. Yet, with each challenge comes the thrill of discovery and potential, the idea that you are laying the groundwork for future generations. Here's a story. I remember reading about how the Apollo astronauts felt when they first set foot on the moon. They talked about seeing our planet, so small and fragile, and it changed them. It made them realize the importance of protecting our home. I imagine that setting foot on Mars would bring a similar revelation, a profound sense of responsibility and awe. But how do we actually get there? Well, it starts with visionaries and explorers willing to dream and act. Space agencies and private companies around the world are tackling the immense logistical puzzle. Engineers are designing rockets capable of making the long journey, while scientists are developing sustainable living systems. It's a collaborative effort, one that requires courage, innovation, and persistence. The journey to Mars itself is an epic adventure, months in space, with Earth becoming a distant speck. Spaceships designed for this voyage are essentially small villages in motion, with everything you need to survive and thrive. The journey is long and requires patience, teamwork, and ingenuity to deal with the unexpected. On Mars, life is about adapting and evolving. It's about forming a new community with a shared purpose. Over time, as more people arrive, settlements could grow, perhaps into bustling towns with schools, research labs, and marketplaces, each a testament to human innovation and resilience. Children might be born there, creating new stories and cultures uniquely Martian. Imagine the first kid's drawing of a Martian sunrise, or the first birthday celebrated millions of miles from home. Sure, the journey is fraught with challenges, but it's also filled with endless possibilities. It's about learning more about Mars, uncovering its secrets, and perhaps even discovering signs of past life. It's about understanding our own planet better by making this bold leap into the cosmos. So as I think back to those childhood nights spent gazing up at the stars, I realize that while the journey to Mars is about looking outward, it's also about reflecting inward. It's about asking ourselves who we are and what kind of world we want to create, both here and away. It's a journey that invites us to dream big while appreciating the beauty of our own planet. And maybe, just maybe, as we reach for Mars, we find new meaning and purpose, shaped by the knowledge that we are part of something much grander than ourselves. Next time you look up at the night sky, perhaps Mars will feel a little closer, a little more like the next chapter in our story, one of exploration, discovery, and endless wonder. Music fades in softly, creating an atmosphere of curiosity and wonder. As I walked through the halls of the Space Museum, gazing at the models of Mars rovers and dusty red landscapes, it struck me just how close we are to making science fiction a reality. The idea of humans living on Mars feels both mind-boggling and thrilling, doesn't it? We've come a long way from just dreaming about it to actually planning it out. So let's dive back into this fascinating journey. Now, imagine standing on the Martian surface where the sky is a butterscotch hue and the ground beneath your feet is a rust red, a desert unlike any on Earth. For us to live there, we'll need to build settlements that can withstand intense cold and high radiation levels. It's a bit like trying to live on top of Mount Everest, but with far less oxygen and a lot more dust storms. Quite a challenge, right? One of the key aspects of a Martian settlement would be its habitat. Scientists and engineers are thinking about using materials like inflatable domes and 3D printed structures that we could make directly from Martian soil. This isn't just a fancy idea either. NASA and other organizations have been developing prototypes. They simulate Mars and environments on Earth to test how these shelters could withstand harsh conditions. It's like practicing for a big game by playing in a really tough league first. But it's not just about where we live, it's also about how we'll live. On Mars, we can't simply rely on Earth for constant supplies. That's why the concept of in situ resource utilization comes in. It's a fancy way of saying we need to use what's available on Mars to survive. For example, did you know that the Martian atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide? With the right technology, we can use this to create oxygen and even fuel. Food is another big part of the puzzle. Picture Martian greenhouses where we'd grow crops like potatoes and lettuce. These greenhouses would use hydroponics, growing plants in a water-based, nutrient-rich solution without soil. This method is already being experimented with on the International Space Station, and it's showing promise. Imagine munching on a salad knowing it was grown millions of miles from Earth. Thinking about water, it's an absolute must-have. Mars does have water, but it's mostly locked as ice. We'll need to develop ways to extract and purify it. There are already some exciting experiments in the works, such as using heated drills to tap into underground ice or capturing water vapor from the atmosphere. Living on Mars will also redefine how we communicate. Since Mars is so far away, messages traveling back and forth can take about 20 minutes each way. It's like having a conversation with a friend, but having to wait 40 minutes for each exchange. This delay means we need to be more self-reliant, solving problems on site without waiting for instant advice from Earth. Amidst these technical challenges, there's a human element too. How will we live together, day after day, in such an isolated and confined space? As history tells us, human relationships are as crucial as any life support system. Teams on Mars will need to be resilient, adaptable, and deeply collaborative. Perhaps they'll develop new cultures and social norms. It's a bit like when I moved to a new city for the first time, learning to adapt to new rhythms, building a community from scratch. As we stand on the brink of this monumental leap, the story of exploring Mars is about more than just science and technology. It's about expanding the reach of humanity and learning to thrive in new worlds. Each step we take towards Mars reflects our innate drive to explore, to push boundaries, and to seek out answers to fundamental questions about life and the universe. In our next episode, we'll explore the role of artificial intelligence in supporting humans on Mars. How will smart technologies assist us in our new home beyond Earth? Until then, keep looking up at the stars and dreaming big. After all, the journey to Mars begins with our imaginations. Episode concludes with gentle music, bringing listeners back to their own world with a sense of wonder.